Hey everybody, hope you're having a great summer. Uh, been a hot one, interesting one. Bugs have been all over the place depending on where you fish, but down to my once a month for the summer. Just works for me. Do a lot with my kids and traveling and sports still and going and fishing myself too. So I recently just got back from a trip with a good friend of mine outside the U.S. for brown trout, mostly fishing dry flies, doing some streamer fishing too. But fortunate enough to really hit the brown drake catch about as perfectly as you possibly can. So I'm going to share with you a style of fly that worked really well for me when these things were eating brown drakes and we had spinners and even duns coming off. This is a variation of a Kelly Galloup pattern, and no, it's not a streamer. It's a variation of one of his, I guess you would call it his bent cripple or spent wing cripple style fly, almost like a knockdown dun, or it could be a spinner, but it basically replicates body shape and rides flush in the film. I've got a couple slight modifications to it. Obviously, this one's for a brown drake, so it's going to be significantly larger than the one that Kelly's had in the video he's shown. And I'm going to talk a little bit about a few of the things that I like to do with this particular hatch and how I tie this one and get it to work for me, which you can then do a couple different variations of it and use it for a bunch of other hatches. First things first, I have a Airex FW571 dry fly long hook. This is a number 6 for the bugs. These bugs are big. 8s and 6s is what I tie them in. The very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put a slight bend in the hook, and whichever direction you care to bend it is entirely up to you. I always just bend it away from me. It just seems to work easier that way. And we're basically going to bend the front quarter of this hook. So what I typically like to do using a pair of non-serrated pliers is just take them and put a slight bend into the hook like you see here. So when I turn it, there you go. First thing I'm going to do is I'm using some 8/0 dark brown Beavis. I'm going to start right at that bend. Lay a few thread wraps on there, and I'm going to inlay a picture while I'm talking right now of the two styles that I like to tie this guy in. This one is a crippled emerger, so it still has a shuck attached to it. The other variation I tie is kind of like a crippled spinner or a downwing dun, and you tie it with tails. The only difference is what you tie in for a tail material. I'm using brown ice fur for the shuck on this, but if I'm going to do tails on it, and like I said, I've probably already inserted the photo, I'll use like Coq de Leon or any kind of other stiff hackle. So I'll take 2 turns, 3 turns, 4 with a little bit of thread tension, and then I'm just going to pull that right down into there. And I'm going to bring my thread right to about the point where the bend starts. I'm going to leave that long for now. I'll trim it in a minute. I'm using a reddish brown spectrumized for this right here, but you can use like a all brown, yellow brown, whatever. First thing I'm going to do is just start to touch dub and twist a thin tapered noodle. These are bigger bugs, so you can actually use a little bit more. And we're just going to do the abdomen region of this first. Every time I do a turn, I just kind of run my finger on there. I'm going to go right up to a point just shy of that bend, and you'll see why in a second. You can cut that chuck roughly the length of the overall body of that fly. Now I'm going to tie in my hackle. Me personally, I don't like a really stiff hackle on these. I like something a little more flimsy, almost webby. So I'll go and look through some of my cheaper necks or saddles to find something that's got a little bit of web to it. You can see I've already pre-cut the barbs away. We're just going to tie that in, and I'm going to go right past where I think that wing's going to go. I'm just going to leave that guy hanging there. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to tie in our post. In our post, you can use a lot of different stuff. I know in KG's normal, or his original video on the one that he does with his cripple spinner, he uses like either like gray or like a white ice fur. I'm actually using some trigger point, and I'm using it in like an Akata spent wing because it gives you kind of like that nice color, which is pretty similar to the wing on this Brown Drake. I'm going to do 1, 2, 3 right over the center of it. Couple in front, couple behind. And then I actually post right around it. So I'll wrap my thread right around the base of that. About 4 turns. I'm going to cut that. I leave it long because I'll trim the wing later. What I also like to do, you can pull that right in the spot. Once I get that in place, I like to put a little bit of resin at the base of this. I thought I brought mine up here. Maybe I didn't. I usually put a little bit of resin on there, and that'll keep that wing kind of posted on the side. Let me go grab my resin. I'll be right back. Sorry about that. I'm a little disheveled here today. So I'm going to put a little drop of bone dry on there, right on the base of that wing. I'll kind of lock it in place. Hit it with your torch. Next thing, all you're going to do is you're just basically going to dub the rest of the body of that. We'll trim our wing in a moment. But what I like to do, I got a pile on here, it's a little stuck to my fingers. These bigger mayflies are a little easier to do. When you start getting into the smaller stuff, you're probably going to want to change your dubbing type, but you're also going to know that, less is going to be better to work with. Let me just put a little bit more on there. And just take a look at my body. You can kind of see I got a nice evenly tapered body there. Now you can take like a brush or whatever. I like to, and Kelly talks about this when he does his tying video too, he kind of trims that wing so it looks kind of like a real one. Now I don't like to do quite as many turns on these, so I'll take that hackle and I'll run it 1 full turn, 2 full turns behind, 1, and then kind of like a half up front. He does this really neat trick where when he ties it off, he'll have a couple of fibers pointed off the front to look kind of like legs. It's kind of a neat little trick. Like you see here. Then you just kind of whip finish it. could head cement that or whatever you want to do. The big thing is cutting this flush on the bottom. So what I do is, and you can leave all this stuff up here on the top because the fish aren't going to see it. It's going to actually help you see the fly. But this guy's so darn big, you're going to have a really difficult time not being able to see it, even if your eyesight's kind of failing you like mine is. You know, my friend learned on our trip that it gets to a point now. I used to like heckle my older fishing buddies who were losing their eyesight 10, 15 years ago. Any of you young folks, I highly recommend you don't do that because it's going to catch up with you at some point too. I used to have 20/10 vision, and now when that low light comes in, it's not so much. And that's pretty much it. That fly will ride nice and flush. You'll see it's got a wing on it like so. Nice bend to the body. If you haven't picked up that book by KG, the Cripples and Spinners and Cripples, highly recommend it. There's some people who wrote some disparaging reviews on it, which I just can't wrap my head around. But a lot of the flies that I tie and fish today were directly influenced through that book. And it has a whole slew of some pretty big names in there. Andy Burke, Craig Matthews, Mike Mercer, to name a few, who I think are guys you're hearing a little bit less about nowadays, but they've done so much to contribute to the flies that we tie and fish today. Anything that's kind of messy, that looks like something that's knocked down or bent or spent, works really, really well. And like I said, for these big guys, I like to tie two of them, some with a shuck like this or others with a tail, so that you can kind of imitate that spinner. And I like a webbier hackle on these bigger guys because when they get wet, they kind of look like the real legs, etc. on the fly. So that's it. Hope you enjoy it. I'll catch you in a month. I'll be back from Alaska by then, I assume, and probably have some more fun things for you. Thanks again. Catch you soon. Happy tying.